Can you hear me? Excellent. Thank you for having me here today. This is awesome. Very good event, FRSecure. So let's talk about Start Left. I'm the CEO, co-founder, and I came from software development background, had a consulting practice for about 10 years before I got into this product. And so what we did is we built high-performing teams inside of our consulting practice. We adopted CI/CD and cloud before DevOps, DevSecOps was even terminology. And so we read a bunch of books, and we based our consulting practice on these books. And I'm going to mention some of these books during my talk, but what we really were aimed at is how do we build an organizational structure that is focused on empowering our product teams and really bringing in the notion of lean, agile manufacturing, right? And so I'm sure if you're in software development, you've read some of these books. And so when you adopt CI/CD, you move really fast. And how do you enable your developers? So the thing that I want everybody to get out of this is just because you have CI/CD does not mean you're doing DevOps. And so the point is we need to focus on more of the intangible things instead of buying more tools as an industry. And so what I want to talk about, and hopefully you get out of this, is things like organizational design. How can we enable or change our organizational structures to better enable better communication and collaboration? Cultural change and behavior change, right? And so how do we actually incentivize and get people moving in the right direction and building security in? And then the last point, and why our company name is Start Left, is you can't get further left than people, right? And so if we're just focused on tools, code, anything, we need to be focused on empowering our people. How do we get developers to be better? And the notion is right now, security, or developers are not security experts, right? And so how do we get developers to move down the path of mastering their craft, also including in security, right? And so the notion of DevOps is high-performing teams with high-quality software. We need, as an industry, to stop pulling vulnerabilities out of that phrase. High-quality software also includes vulnerabilities. So we're going to start with, as a founder or as anybody in business, I always like to understand, like, what's your why? Why do you do this? Why are you passionate about this? And so you'll see another screen later on about what happens when developers are left out. That one's more about breaches. This one's more about a security issue that turned into an unavailability thing in a medical device. This is my daughter. She was diagnosed as a type 1 diabetic at 16 months old. We weren't able to use technology or monitoring on her for the first 5 years, right? And so we finally were able to use a constant glucose monitor, and we began to trust this device, right? And so for the first 5 years, we didn't sleep a whole night, that whole entire time. We trusted this thing. We changed our behavior. We trusted that it would notify us if her blood sugar goes low. So if you know anybody with diabetes, a lot of diabetics can die in their sleep. Fortunately, she did not die, but this was when she was 8 years old. She dropped down to a 47 blood sugar for 3 hours. This device never notified us. This is a billion-dollar company that cannot maintain software, right? And so it's an easy flaw, which you can see on the Google Play Store right here. That snapshot was taken in 2018. If you can see by the underline, that snapshot, they did not update their software for almost 2 years, right? So they hid behind compliance that FDA is too hard to update their software, but it is now putting our patients at risk. So my daughter almost died one night. So this, I alarmed a lot of people. I did a white paper, tried to present it to them, and it happened a year later to the patient population, right? And so that is the type of thing, this is why I'm passionate about this subject. And so while that wasn't a security issue, it was code rot, it was software decay, it was just not maintaining software. All right, so also, I'm not going to come out as a startup and say something's broken. Cybersecurity, I believe, is not broken. Cybersecurity is incomplete. And so I think when we talk to CISOs, the whole software development conversation is left out, right? And so I didn't make this screen or this design. This was something created by CISA with their Secure by Design initiative. And I agree with them. We don't have a cybersecurity problem. We have a software quality problem. And so if we're still focused on all the way to the right and cloud security posture management, things like that that are shift left, we are still deploying an incomplete strategy, and that's what we're talking about today. And so I'm going to also try to make this fun with some memes. Here's your first one. So I'm from Florida. We're ridden with hurricanes. Everybody's scared of hurricanes, right? And so this is how I view the world of the incomplete cybersecurity program, right? And so if we're just buying tools, putting stuff up and doing status quo stuff, we're not actually securing things. And so if we're just doing cybersecurity and the things that we're putting in place are not resilient, what are we actually doing here? And so I want to pick on what we're doing. And one of these things is in a traditional cybersecurity model. This is what you see on the left. What we're trying to do and what we want people to start focusing on is actually being intentional with what you're doing. And so if you're a CISO or if you're a C-suite leader, you weren't put in that position to buy tools. You were put in that position to figure out a program and figure out a different operating model on how you deploy those tools and how you facilitate change within your organization to also include developers. So this conversation is a big conversation because when I talk to a lot of CISOs, oh, that's not my job. Developers do their thing, it's chaos, I'm not even gonna touch that. No, you're in charge of security, right? And so this is how you move into the modern way. We move to DevOps, we move fast, we're putting the organization at risk if we are not solving these problems before they go out to production, before they go out to market. So what do we need to do? This is a program-centric methodology. We need to be deliberate on what tools we're using. Don't just go buy all the tools. And I'm going to keep on driving this in. It's a people-driven thing. What does that mean? Cultural change, behavioral change, and changing what we're doing in an operating model. Here's your next one. Picking on tools. So a lot of CISOs we talk to as well, it's tool consolidation. But we're also applying the same traditional mindset to modern software development. Let's just buy more tools, slap more tools in it, slap more tools in the process, and that's not the way it works. That's why developers are not adopting it. So here's the introduction of your paradox. So out to the right, that's your cybersecurity. We're literally blocking stuff from getting into our cloud, from getting into our CI/CD and our product teams. And so when we say start left, we're focused on the people. And guess what? Every single developer can use anywhere from 10 to 20 to 30 tools. That also includes open source technologies, languages, all kinds of different things in the CI/CD process. And there's going to be a picture I hope you guys take a picture of on all what this looks like in a second. But we should be focused on building high quality software which will create that resilience and that immutable infrastructure. So if we're focused on runtime, that security all the way out to the right, we're already too late. We're also not following DevOps and we're not following containerization best practices, right? And that's going to lead to alert fatigue and all the other things. So, and this, back to the slide with the plywood. The whole reason why I put that in there was to pick on regulation for a second. So when Hurricane Katrina came out, Hurricane Andrew, destroyed New Orleans, destroyed Homestead. Regulation and code changes and rules changed in construction, right? And so in cybersecurity, we usually don't change until we have to react. And so the paradigm shift is today. And there's a couple slides down where I pick on a little bit of the breaches and what has happened over the last 3 to 5 years. But as an example, we just got our SOC 2 as a startup. I'm able to sell to you enterprise companies my product. You can bring my product into your ecosystem. They did not validate the security of my product, the code, the CI/CD, the cloud infrastructure. So I'm literally going to API connect into your environment like every single one of your software vendors, put you at risk because I have a SOC 2 certification. We got to change. Like, this is not the way a cybersecurity industry should be performing. And Astra, I like their pledge for transparency. Yes, that is perfect for software vendors because this is how we drive change in the industry. And I'd be remiss if I didn't put some FUD out there about AI, but I didn't want to say it because I didn't want to be part of it. But our AI bot, Cody,
Hey everyone at Hacks and Hops. I'm thrilled Jeremy asked me to chat with you about AI and code. Let's start with this. AI needs direction. Without an expert guiding it, you risk building in vulnerabilities and having code that doesn't quite do what you'd expect. Today, many companies lack visibility into how developers are bringing in open source and AI-driven code, which is a huge risk. Listen, I am not an engineer, so information security officers should be seriously concerned. AI is making it easy for anyone to pretend they're a developer, and some people are getting hired with nothing but AI-generated code. It's a people and culture problem that we need to fix. We have to monitor our developers and their code to ensure it's safe, no matter where it comes from. As security leaders, we must ask ourselves if our tools are truly improving security or just adding more flaws. And remember, like with your favorite brew, use AI responsibly, or you might wake up wondering what just happened. Cheers to responsible coding, and thanks for having me, Hacks and Hops. I hope I'm the first AI you've had a drink with. Cody McBotface, out.
Cody McBotface. Hey, at least there's some production value, right? We got a couple more of those. But no, that was a point of like, developers can use tools, right? And if we're not monitoring these tools, a lot of risks are being put into place. And now with AI, we can accelerate even more those risks to market. And so this is something that we need to get our angle on really quickly.
Hey, everyone.
And so here's the picture screen of the no shift left, right? And so do I have software developers in the audience? Awesome. I heard of Conway's Law? No? Martin Fowler. Conway's Law. Let me go to the next one.
Jeremy, do you mind if I break down Conway's Law for the people? In simple terms, the way teams within an organization communicate and collaborate will influence the structure of the systems they develop. If an organization has siloed departments with limited cross-team communication, the systems they design will have flawed solutions. But let's now take a journey back in time. Conway's Law, formulated by...
No. We're not going that far. Come on. All right, so this is your screen. Cloud Security Posture Management, you know the darling of our industry, Wiz. They worked at Microsoft over 5 years ago, came out with CSPM. So when we talk about Conway's Law and organizational structure and developing a flawed system, if we're just deploying CSPM and that's your cybersecurity strategy around product development, it's incomplete. And so basically, we created allowed the creation another operational silo, which is infrastructure security now, that now we have no insight of this data coming from CSPM on how it relates back down to the CI/CD and product teams. And so correlating all this information and all this data into the organizational structure of a product team focused DevSecOps environment is really what the goal is here. And so this is how we align more the silos of all the different functions where it's GRC, cloud, security, product security, app security. I see some cameras out. Let me know if I can go. All right, so moving into DevOps culture, right? And so I also see a lot of CISOs driving traditional cybersecurity culture into DevOps, and it just doesn't fit. And so DevOps is more about continuous improvement, being able to innovate and fail and not be put in trouble for those things. But also, we need to move from a negative environment to more of a positive environment. And so this is what your cultural change needs to look like and how you inflict and how you get developers on your side. And really focus in on the cultural buy-in of moving to empowering business innovation, which is software development, and empowering the DevOps teams and the product development teams. What we're not doing, right, is we're just buying tools and slapping in it. in the process. And here's your other meme that I see all the time. So I like to pick on traditional AppSec vendors on this, and they don't fit. And so there needs to be a new methodology on how you apply modern product security into modern development, not old things into new ways of working. So back to, I do have a lot of personal CISO coaching, and I always ask, have you read the Phoenix Project or Gene Kim's books? And so I see a lot of problems with CISOs trying to push compliance language, push cybersecurity language into development. And where we've seen the most success is go read the Phoenix Project. Go learn to talk the language of DevOps. If you're talking the language of DevOps, it's high-performing teams, small, autonomous, performant teams that are focused on high-quality software. How do you overlay security into those conversations? If you're going to be successful as a CISO to wrangle this chaos, you have to be able to speak their language. So Secure by Design came out by CISA. Here recently, another pledge that you can take to be a secure vendor or secure software company. But they also talk about these kind of intangible things around organizational design and communication, cultural change and behavior change, and your people empowerment. And so on the last one there, Microsoft, back to Wiz. 5 years later, they are now moving down this operating structure of product-focused DevOps. Small teams. Now we're incentivizing product security officers to sit and go amongst these teams to help the product teams still move fast, but then also put security into their workflows and help them continue to move at that velocity. And so if you read the articles on Microsoft, they're also incentivizing that change with gamification, all kinds of stuff that driving security into more product-focused teams. And so this is coming, and Microsoft's doing it, and Microsoft realized that CSPM is just not the only solution. Here's your other slide about what happens when developers are left out. This is all related to getting past traditional cybersecurity measures and taking advantage of CI/CD code, things that we're doing in the software development lifecycle. And so this is getting worse and worse and worse. And if we want to get proactive before the regulation comes, start thinking about how you can build a new program that facilitates this whole life cycle from start to finish, inclusive of cybersecurity, but also inclusive of the proactive nature of doing this before it goes out. So building that resilience, building in the immutable infrastructure and integrity of the system. It's funny, this is, I know we're in a soccer field, but I like to give everybody the Moneyball analogy. And so if we're really trying to focus in on how do we do this, we should be focused on performance on our teams. And so if you look at this field, what's the most important part of the field? Who's the most important part of the field? It's the players, right? And so Moneyball, you take data, you take what is happening, how they're behaving, how they're taking action, and you take that information and say, how can I make my team better? How do I make my people better? And so then, once you start doing that, more fans show up, more sponsors show up, you start to win, and the whole thing is orchestrated and everything operates better. And so Moneyball, data-driven performance management is the name of the game. What does that look like? And so this is kind of like a small scale model, but we propose when we talk to CISOs of, why don't you create a chief product security office? It reports to the CISO office, it's a small team, and they can operate and help all the other product teams on security, help them get better, right? And so now you're operating the product team methodology, but you're also building product security into the program. And then what's missing too is your continuous feedback on what developers are creating, the learning path where you're now upscaling developers as they're creating the issues, vulnerabilities or compliance issues, and then gamifying the program itself. And so how do you incentivize behavior change is taking and saying, hey, if I create this vulnerability, I'm going to serve up contextualized situational content so you can learn what that vulnerability is, how to fix it, and that way you can learn on how not to do it anymore. And so I always kind of say, like, I went to college, and then like 10, 20 years later, I run into a problem, and now I have to go back and research it and fix it, and I have to relearn that skill. Well, humans learn in the moment best, right? And so if we can serve up that content and say, hey, here's how you fix the thing that you just created, now we're building it into the process. Now from a gamification perspective, you're earning points, you can rack up these points, you can earn rewards, and back to Microsoft. And you can incentivize people monetarily based on their performance. Now it's a continuous loop. It's a continuous cycle of a program of reinforcing that better behavior and that change in the culture. And so we'll do...
All right, team, gather around. Today we're playing a board game, Start Left Security's Challenge, The Path to Excellence, Board Game Edition.
A board game about cybersecurity? That sounds awesome.
It is awesome. Before we start left, let's go over the rules together.
Your mission is to lead your team to success in program performance, learning, and incentivization.
Yes, and if you land on the program performance square, you have to guide your team through secure development, fixing vulnerabilities, and avoiding obstacles.
Each milestone achieved powers up his game piece.
Efficient development speeds up delivery and boosts security.
If you land on the learning path square, you have to select key learning paths, earning badges to level up your team's skills.
Choose the right skills and watch your team grow stronger. Oh, and if you land on the incentivization square, you get rewards and recognition markers, energizing your team. They move faster across the board, powered by motivation and demonstrating mastery of secure development.
Motivated teams deliver better results, faster.
Well said. So when you win at this game, your team will be ready for anything.
So kind of a little play on the gamification, but the point there is like giving people the ability to demonstrate mastery of their craft and rewarding them for that and getting better. That's ultimately what we should be doing to inflict that change. And so once you're able to do that and using data, you can also highlight your security champions. And so your security people in traditional cybersecurity need help. And so if we can find your security champions based on data and the product teams, now we can use those people to help mentor other teams, coach other team members, and now monetarily reward them and really drive that program adoption, but then drive that program success. And so with that, that is the how do you put security in the whole process? How do you develop a program, cultural change, org structure, and people empowerment, and ultimately putting developers as the front line of defense. And so they're the people that are building the things that we rely on every day. We should also be protecting it. And so that right there is, I think, is my end. Yeah.
Thank you, Jeremy. Awesome talk.